You stay, I'll stay, and your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And where you die, I'll be buried. So that's what she's like. Thick or thin, I'm in all the way. Hey everybody, welcome back to Season 2, The Bald Believers. I'm Jamie.
I'm Chad.
So, took a little bit of a pause. Pumped the brakes a minute. Summer's nearly over. Kind of sad.
Yeah.
But we're back.
We're in the dog days, though.
Dog days.
So everybody's kind of ready for it to be a little bit of fall action.
Yeah, the Ohio Valley, right? You can count on the humidity. So, but yeah, back in here, we're going to talk about Ruth and Naomi. So I think this is another one that you guys requested. So it wasn't something that Chad and I requested, but we're working off that list that we mentioned. So enjoy doing that. And what do we see we're in the book of Ruth, in case you didn't know. So it's we're kind of doing an overview. It's 4 chapters. So yeah, 4 chapters there. We're going to do an overview of the whole book.
Right after Judges. Actually, it's during the time of the Judges.
Yeah, which is kind of dark, right? I mean, it's like,
it is a very dark time right now.
Judges, if that would be like rated NC-17 if we made a movie out of it.
Oh wow, yeah, that was a bad time right there.
But yeah, we're wrapping up that, and then what do we find in the book of Ruth? It's a love story, probably like a Hallmark movie.
Oh gosh, there is so much to pull out of the book of Ruth.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it all today. We're going to highlight some of it, but we won't get it all.
So one thing you should know: what do you see? You see real people doing real life, real situations. It reminded me, whenever I was reading over this, reminded me of wedding vows, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, for sicker, and health.
It covers all of it.
It's all here in the book of Ruth.
Yeah.
So that's what we see from feast to famine. So it's the whole, everything, all wrapped up here in these short little 4 chapters. They don't take very long to read them. So, I mean, you can go over them, but a lot of stuff in there to unpack. As I was looking at Chad, I'm going, just in chapter 1, after we're 5 verses in, we've had 2 weddings and 3 funerals.
Yeah, it's pretty and a famine.
And a famine.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot happening in 5 verses.
It's like, wow, man. Left Naomi, her husband
Elimelech.
Thank you. I went blank.
That there again is a Kentucky pronunciation, so it may not be right, but we know what we're talking about.
It's kind of like no use in even remembering his name because he's dead in verse 3.
Yeah, he's out.
So it's like gone. Get him for just a little bit.
Well, I tell you what I think is something about him, though. His name means my God is king, and there's a famine in the land, and as soon as he sees problems, he leaves the country. He doesn't look to God. He actually leaves the country, and he goes to Moab, home of unbelievers.
Yeah.
So he goes to the unbelievers to see if things will get better, right? And he leaves his inheritance, and he leaves, the land that God has given him, something that they were never supposed to do.
Well, the grass is always greener.
Right. And so it's odd that his name is my God is king. Oh, but it's hard, so I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm going to jump over here with the unbelievers because I think things will go better for me. And they didn't.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly they went bad. So
we see Naomi, her daughter-in-laws, Ruth and Orpah. 10 years, that's all they were married. So they're a decade.
And there again, the sons, one's name is illness and the other one's name is destruction.
Oh,
that's the meaning of the
names.
Right, and it kind of went that way.
Yeah, so that could be an interesting wedding.
Yeah.
So, but 10 years, and then what happens is you have these 3 women that they're related only from men who are no longer here.
Right.
No blood relation. But they find themselves here to do life.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to figure out.
And it's not an easy time for a widow. Not that there ever is an easy time for anybody to lose anybody, but, Naomi, she's lost her husband and 2 sons, and she's in a foreign land.
Yeah, they're faced with this famine.
Yeah.
There isn't any curbside pickup, no Amazon pantry. None of that stuff exists.
But she does hear that things have started to turn around back in her homeland, back in her hometown, right?
Right.
So now she's going to pack up and head back.
Which is an interesting place to where her hometown is.
It is. It's a little town of Bethlehem.
A little town. A lot of things happen in Bethlehem.
A lot of things happen in Bethlehem.
So, when I was reading that and studying, I was like, how about that? We're going to leave Moab. We're going to go back to Judah, Israel, Bethlehem here. Somebody else is going to come out of Bethlehem,
and we're going to get to that.
Yeah, we're
going to get to that because there's something else going on here, because she's ready to go back, right? And when she's ready to go back, she tells her daughter-in-laws, "Look, you don't have to go with me. Go back to your families. Go back to your homes. Go back and serve your gods," because the Moabites were not friends of the Hebrews.
Yeah,
right. And so that's going against them.
She's trying to break up this trio,
right? And something else going against them is the fact that Naomi is now older. And she said, "Look, I can't help you. I can't do anything for you." She said, "Even if I could have a child, are you going to wait around long enough for me to have 2 sons and them grow up so that you can marry them?" And what she's referring to is the Levirate marriage, right? And that comes from Deuteronomy 25:5-6, and it's one of the 2 key concepts that you have to have in mind when you're reading the book of Ruth. You really want to get the fullness out of it. And the Levirate marriage is the more social construct, because it deals with how family members take care of each other. And if you read in Deuteronomy 25:5-6, it says, "If brethren dwell together, and one of them die and have no children, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him as a wife, and perform the duty of the husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel." So that's what Naomi's referring to here, because, like I said, at this time it was very difficult for widows. And she said, "I don't have, my sons are dead. I'm older. I'm going to go home and basically throw myself on the mercy of my family for somebody to take care of me," because Naomi didn't have anybody to take care of her. Right?
Well, and that's what that's why I said this is the making of a Hallmark movie. If they just if she's trying to break up this trio, then what do we see? We see them all 3 there crying. It's like they got some time invested in each other.
Yeah, they do. They've had several years.
It's like they're sitting there having this, for lack of better terms, this girl time. And, they're upset about they're not exactly wanting to go that route. We know that eventually, I'm going to mess her name up again. Orpah.
That's how I say it. It may be wrong.
Orpah. Strangely enough, that was what Oprah's name was going to be. Her mother misspelled it.
Really?
Yeah. Just one of those useless facts for you. There's a bunch of those floating around.
I've got too many.
So, but anyhow, but she decides to leave. So she decides, okay, and she goes off. But Ruth doesn't.
No.
Ruth doesn't. She decides to stay. And what happens is Naomi keeps trying to get her to leave. It's like, she's trying to convince her that this is the best thing for her to do is to leave. And then what happens is there's this great thing that she says that probably you guys once I say it, you'll remember it. You probably heard it. And she says this. She says, "Where you go, I'll go, and where you stay, I'll stay. And your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And where you die, I'll be buried." So that's what she's like. Thick or thin, I'm in all the way.
I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right.
And it speaks volumes of her and her relationship that she had with her mother-in-law. So because it's like, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to be the one that takes care of you.
Right.
So it's this moment that they have. But she's convinced that God's angry with her, right?
Yes.
And she has this moment where she says, "Well, don't call me Naomi anymore."
Right.
She changes her name to, was it Mara?
Mara.
Yeah, I had it down here somewhere. I've lost mine. But she changes her name. Says, "Well, okay, from here on, I think that's we're still in chapter 1."
Yeah.
So
because she's just come back home because Ruth has said she was going to go with her, and they've come back to town, and it's been at least 10 years, and she's aged some, and so when people see her, they're like, "Oh, is this Naomi? Look,
right.
It's Naomi." She's, "Oh, don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara," which means bitterness.
Yeah. Well, and you had to look what happened in her life.
Yeah, she's lost everybody.
She's lost her husband. She's lost her 2 sons. She went through a famine. She went to another land. So all this stuff has transpired. Reading through it's kind of reminded me of how we are sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like it fits.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we find is it fits. But she's like, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. So the next time we see them, it's harvest time.
Yes, they get back about harvest time. And so they left in a famine. They come back at harvest.
Yeah.
And so they don't have anybody.
And I'm thinking it sounds like a pretty bountiful harvest.
Yeah, it's a pretty bountiful harvest. And, there's a man in the town named Boaz who is a near kinsman.
Is that a cool name or what? Boaz.
Who's a near kinsman of Naomi. And they kind of get with his group. And she has Ruth go out and glean the fields. And the gleaning of the fields, you had people going through and you had people harvesting, right? But they didn't actually get everything. So they allowed the people that didn't have, right, that couldn't provide for themselves, to go out and glean the fields. And this was something they were told to do. Not only were they supposed to do that and allow people to come in there, but they weren't supposed to muzzle the ox either.
Yeah.
Right. There's a whole lot of sharing in the harvest time because they were supposed to take care of each other.
So we did this when I was a kid. We went out and gleaned the fields for corn.
I've done that too when I was a child.
So you use that to feed them whatever.
Yeah.
But we go out because
dent corn.
Yeah. You go out and find what the combine happened to drop.
Yeah, I remember that. And I think about that when I read this.
Yeah.
The fond memory.
I wasn't using it for food like they were, but it's a whole different gleaning for them.
But they were instructed to do this,
right.
And that was the reason. You're not supposed to be greedy and selfish, right? And they were taken care of, and Boaz comes along.
Well, Ruth sees him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's confident. That's what I liked about her. She sees this Boaz guy. She's super confident that that's the guy for her.
Yes. And he's not a young cat.
Yeah.
He's not one of the young guys strolling around town. This is an older man.
Right. And she's confident that she's going to find favor with him. Mm-hmm. And when I'm reading through that, and I'm thinking, wow, man, the level of confidence that she has. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking this is a lady I'd like to sit down and meet. She would be an interesting person to talk to.
Oh, I think so. Very much so.
But when Boaz sees her,
yes.
You know what I thought of? I thought of Maroon 5 song, Girl Like You. That's what came to mind.
Well, he goes over and asks the foreman, who is it?
Right.
And the foreman tells him the whole story. He said, so this is the young lady that came back with Naomi, and she's sticking with Naomi, and she's going to take care of Naomi. And he tells the truth about her. He's not puffing her up. He just kind of tells the truth, which would puts her in a good light because she is doing the right thing, and she's doing the right thing for nothing. Right, yeah. Other than love. She's not doing it for any standing. And so you find Boaz tells her, you glean in my fields. Right? And then he goes and he tells the gleaners, drop a little extra for her. Help her out. Because, for one, I think obviously he's drawn to her, but I think it's also that he has an appreciation of what she's doing. Because understand, this is a Moabite. Not friends with the Hebrews, but he understands that she's no longer just a Moabite. She's a convert, right? Yeah. She wants to accept God into her life, and she's bound herself to Naomi. And I think that's probably the larger reason that he takes such an interest in her, because he's taking care of his kinswoman, which brings us to the second concept in the book, which is more of a theological concept, and that's the concept of the kinsman redeemer. Right? And the kinsman redeemer is a relative that could redeem you with money out of three basic conditions. If you were a slavery, they could purchase you and get you out for your freedom. If you were a widow, they could marry you and keep you as his wife. Or if you were orphaned, they could adopt you. So we've got the Levirate marriage, right? That's the social concept. And then we got the larger theological concept, which is the theological concept of the kinsman redeemer, which is going to come into play towards the end. Yes,
but so we see that, and we also see that Boaz has this meal. It's like, hey, come here and eat with me, right? Mm-hmm. So share this meal together. As you said, he instructed, hey, leave a little extra. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But whenever she comes back and she's talking to Naomi, then Naomi instructs her to do a few things.
Yes, because she understands this is a near kinsman here.
Yeah, and she's like, hey, Ruth, go, which don't do this today, right?
No.
So when I'm reading, I'm just like, I'm glad some of these customs no longer exist.
Yeah, because that's going to creep me out.
Yeah, but she says, "Hey, go lay at his feet."
Yes,
I'm going. Yeah, he was kind of creeped out about it.
Yes.
Startled.
Well, yeah,
shocked.
He'd been. It's the harvest time, right? And they'd been down. They've been working.
He's
hard.
wore out.
They've been down, and they were what's they call it, winnowing. This is actually where they're separating the wheat from the chaff. And this is a lot of work because they're throwing shovels full of grain up at a time, and they've got a fan, and they're fanning, and the grain is heavy and will fall down, and the chaff is light and will blow away. Now you're going to read about that again, that illustration in the New Testament, and that's referring to those who are saved and not.
Yep.
His fan is in his hand.
Yep.
And this is what's going on when this happens. So he's, they've had this big ordeal. He's tired, right? And he goes in and he lays down, and
he's asleep. He's out of it. And she comes in here. We don't know what it's. It's definitely dark and night, and she slips in, and she lays at his feet, and it's like this is different. So I'm going, wow, this is. And this is when he wakes up. He's like, what? He's a bit startled.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
Yes.
So it's like, don't try this at home.
No,
This is one of those don't do this crazy custom. But she says, redeem me.
Right. She asks him to put the cover over her. She's laying at his feet. There's nothing out of the way going on. This was a custom. And what's actually happening is Ruth is fairly bold because she's proposing marriage to Boaz, because she's laid down at his feet and says, you put the blanket over me. And that symbolizes him taking care of her, him protecting her as the kinsman redeemer.
Mm-hmm. So Boaz, he knows that there's one who's before him to be her redeemer.
Mm-hmm.
So he does the right thing as he should do. He goes and he talks to this guy.
Because he was excited.
Yeah, exactly.
He was thrilled that she chose him because he said, you didn't choose any of the younger guys. You chose me.
Yeah.
You
wonder when he showed up if he tried to get rid of all that excitement off his face.
Well, he went to the front gates. I think he had to, because now it was time. He had to do the right thing. Like you said, there was a nearer kinsman who had the right of kinsman redeemer.
Yeah.
Right?
So, which, it encompassed more than just the marriage. Whatever she had acquired, land or whatever, right? It's the whole package.
Which was the inheritance, which was not allowed to be sold outside of the family.
Yeah.
So it had to be sold inside the family, and it had to be the person of the closest kin had the first right of refusal.
Yeah. So when he goes, he proposes this and to the first redeemer, the guy's like, eh.
Well, he's excited at first. He said, yeah, I'll buy the land. And he says, well, wait a minute, with the land,
you get more than that.
You're going to have to take Ruth to be your wife. And he said, no, I can't do that.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
So he agrees, right? And he says, okay, Boaz, you're the redeemer. And here's an odd custom. They exchange. He give him his sandal.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
He give him that sandal because this is a deal. And if you break that deal, he's going to come back and wave that sandal in your face. And this is all done at the gates of the cities. This is where all the men hung out and did the business.
Like a barbershop at the time.
Yeah, right. And this is in front of all of the hierarchy of the town. And you'll come back with that sandal and go, hey, I've got the proof right here. It's almost like the written contract, like the signed contract.
So Boaz, probably, in my mind, he's probably like, well, I wasn't planning this, but I'm glad it's working out this way.
Yeah.
So he goes. We know that they do get married. They have a son.
Mm-hmm.
You know his name?
Obed,
yeah.
Yep.
Obed. Which goes into, he's the grandfather of this probably famous guy that most people have heard of.
Yeah. Obed's the grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the because he's the grandfather of. He has a son named Jesse, and Jesse, you probably heard about, had a few kids. He had one young one, a ruddy young man, that was a shepherd.
Yeah, that they passed over.
And later became king.
Yeah.
And if you see the descendant of that line, that goes to Jesus.
Right.
So Jesus' line traces all the way back here to Ruth, which why we said that the first concept was social, the kinsman redeemer is theological.
Yeah.
Because the kinsman redeemer has to be free, a kinsman, able to pay the price and willing to pay the price. And we're redeemed because through Jesus, who
Yep.
was able and willing to pay the price.
It kind of all goes back to that Genesis 3 thing with Eve.
Yes, Genesis 3:15.
Yeah, I knew you would know that.
Oh, that's God preaching the gospel to the devil. This is the first time you hear it.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yes.
Once again, chills.
You know, what come to my mind, though, is when this baby was born, can you imagine the feeling for Naomi?
Oh yeah,
She's, you know,
because that child is counted to her dead son's
yeah.
benefit,
Right.
right? You know, and and Naomi was taken care of because all that extra grain that Boaz was given to Ruth took home and gave to Naomi.
And Boaz, one of the things that attracted him to her is her care for her mother-in-law.
Yeah, her character.
Yeah, which,
something that's not spoken of today when people look at attractive qualities. Character seems to be not even on the list.
Yeah.
And this was what drew him to her first.
But we see that we see this descendant of Jesus coming out of this from here. But there's a lot of pictures of theology. Lessons in this love story, if you will, that we can draw. One of them is that women are equal to men in God's eyes.
Yes.
You see that in there. We can see that God's heart was to redeem all people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because look at it right here. Ruth was a Gentile woman, and she was redeemed by Boaz in Bethlehem, right? Mm-hmm. Our Redeemer, Jesus, was born in Bethlehem. Ruth is Boaz's bride, and the church is often referred to as Jesus' bride.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool connection.
It's pretty cool connections there.
Yeah. And then, one of the third thing is Boaz, he's this great picture of Jesus Christ. Both in, he's a kinsman redeemer, and he's also that seed that'll be traced, like we talked about there in Genesis, out of Genesis chapter 3. So very, very interesting. I'd encourage you to pick it up and read it.
Oh yeah,
we just flew over it pretty quick, but
yeah, you got the cost of disobedience is covered in here too. You look at Elimelech, right? First thing he did in the face of trouble, and you see that today when people start having hard times, they don't tend to turn to the church; they tend to turn away.
You're right.
And look what happened to his family. Or you can look at and you mentioned the picture of the Redeemer. Shown there, you see God's sovereignty in all of this because yes, they were disobedient, right? And Naomi turns to go back. Ruth turns to go back with her. Ruth accepts her God as Naomi's God as her God, and what you see there is that in her believing, she's made an heir of salvation, so that you see the image of the ingrafting of the Gentiles, which Jesus speaks about.
Yep.
There's so much in the book of Ruth.
Oh, absolutely. Like, so you start connecting the dots, if you will, right?
Oh, yeah.
And get to see the bigger picture. But that's, like I said, that's what reading through it and reading and seeing and just getting excited. And it's, I don't know, I'd say it's easy to do.
It is. It is. It's a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's good.
So, but, we appreciate you guys for taking a little bit of your time for listening in. And we'll be excited to cover some more. Some more topics, some more characters. I say there's all kinds of stuff to cover.
Oh yeah, I don't think we could run out.
Yeah, we just got we got this whole thing called the Bible.
Yeah, the Word of God is pretty deep. If you've never heard of it, you should check it out.
But we appreciate you guys taking a little bit of your time to tune in, to listen in to us, whether you're viewing us through YouTube or if you're on one of the other podcasts. Thank you again. Again, you can go like us and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It keeps you notified whenever the new episode comes out. Or we're on Facebook. Go like that page. You get notified too whenever we put a new episode out as well. You can email us, baldbelievers@gmail.com. So baldbelievers@gmail.com. Or if you're on the Facebook page, there's a button there. You can click on it. It takes you straight into the Gmail. You can send us your questions, comments, topics, whatever. It's completely confidential. Chad and I are the only two that read those. So that's some ways you can get in touch with us, and we appreciate you guys. So until our next topic, hope you guys have a good one.
See ya.